You wake up tired. Again. The fog settles before your eyes even open, and the heaviness in your gut feels permanent, like a stone that never digests. You've tried the supplements, the cleanses, the probiotics with the billion-count promises. Nothing moves the needle. Your body feels locked in a holding pattern, circling the drain of chronic mediocrity, while the fitness influencers and pharmaceutical ads scream that vitality is just one more purchase away. But what if the answer wasn't engineered in a lab or marketed with clinical trials? What if it was sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now, dismissed as decoration for a ham, forgotten behind the turmeric and cinnamon? Clove water is not a trend. It's a biological intervention disguised as folk wisdom, a molecular key that unlocks what modern medicine has taught you to medicate instead of eliminate. This isn't about wellness theater or Instagram rituals with crystals and moon water. This is about a compound so potent that it rewrites the script your cells are running, taking a stagnant, inflamed, waste-logged system and initiating what I call the redemption cycle. A cascade of detoxification, immune activation, and metabolic recalibration that begins the moment Eugenol crosses your tongue. Your body is designed to purge. It wants to expel the garbage, clear the backlog, restore the flow. But somewhere along the way, the machinery got clogged. The gut became a fermentation tank instead of a processing plant. The liver started triaging instead of transforming. The lymphatic system, your body's sewer network, slowed to a crawl under the weight of inflammatory debris and synthetic residue. You didn't break. You stalled. And a stalled system doesn't send pain signals that scream emergency. It whispers through brain fog, joint stiffness, stubborn weight, and energy that never quite recovers. You adapt. You normalize. You forget what it feels like to run clean. Clove water doesn't ask your permission. It doesn't wait for your gut to heal itself or for your immune system to spontaneously remember its job. It forces the issue. Within minutes of ingestion, Eugenol, the primary bioactive compound in cloves, enters your bloodstream and begins what can only be described as a molecular purge. This isn't a gentle nudge. This is a biochemical reckoning. Eugenol is a phenylpropanoid, a class of compounds that function as both antimicrobial assassins and anti-inflammatory agents. It doesn't just support your immune system with vague promises of balance. It hunts. It infiltrates bacterial cell walls, disrupts fungal colonies, and disables the enzymes that allow pathogens to thrive in the warm, dark sanctuary of your digestive tract. But here's where it gets interesting. Eugenol doesn't stop at killing invaders. It also inhibits the production of prostaglandins, the signaling molecules your body uses to trigger inflammation. Prostaglandins are the accelerant that turns a minor tissue injury into a chronic fire. They're why your joints ache in the morning, why your sinuses stay swollen, why your gut never quite settles. When Eugenol blocks prostaglandin synthesis, it doesn't just reduce pain, it removes the biological permission slip your body has been using to stay inflamed. The fire doesn't get managed, it gets extinguished. Now imagine your gut. Not the sanitized diagram from a textbook, but the real thing. A living ecosystem of trillions of microbes, layers of mucus, patches of biofilm that harden over years of poor digestion and low-grade infection. Biofilm is the dirty secret of chronic gut dysfunction. It's a protective matrix that bacteria and fungi build to shield themselves from your immune system and from antibiotics. It's why probiotics often fail. They can't penetrate the fortress. They float past, get flushed out, and you're left wondering why your bloating never improves. Eugenol doesn't float past. It breaks down biofilm mechanically, disrupting the polysaccharide lattice that holds it together and exposing the pathogens underneath to your immune cells. This is the first phase of the redemption cycle, clearing the rot so the repair can begin. Your immune system has been waiting for this. White blood cells that were overwhelmed and under-resourced suddenly get backup. The lymphatic system, which moves waste out of tissues and into elimination pathways, starts pumping again. You might not feel this immediately. In fact, the first few days of drinking clove water might feel worse. You might get a headache. Your digestion might get loud. Your skin might break out. This isn't failure. This is mobilization. Your body is finally moving the garbage it's been storing in closets and under rugs. And when waste starts flowing again after months or years of stagnation, the exit gets crowded. But ride it out. Because on the other side of that discomfort is a system that remembers how to function. The redemption cycle doesn't end with detoxification. Eugenol also activates the NRF2 pathway, a genetic switch that ramps up your body's production of antioxidant enzymes. These enzymes, glutathione, superoxide dismutase, catalase, are your internal cleanup crew. They neutralize free radicals, repair oxidative damage, and prevent the cellular rust that accelerates aging and disease. Most antioxidants you consume, like vitamin C or E, work as one-time use sacrifices. They donate an electron to a free radical and then get destroyed in the process. But NRF2 activation is different. It doesn't just provide antioxidants. It teaches your cells to make more of them, creating a sustainable defense system that operates in the background long after the clove water has left your stomach. This is the molecular key. Not a temporary fix, not a symptomatic band-aid. A reset, a biological rebooting of systems that have been running corrupted code for so long you forgot they could operate any other way. The human organism is not fragile. It's resilient beyond measure. But resilience requires the right inputs, and for too long, you've been fed lies about what those inputs are. You don't need more pharmaceuticals to suppress the signals. You need the tools to clear the source. And clove water, this humble infusion of dried flower buds, is one of those tools. Simple, cheap, potent, ignored by an industry that profits from your stagnation. But now you know. Now the question is whether you'll act. You're about to learn something that could change the trajectory of your health. But here's the reality. 95% of the people watching this right now won't share it. They'll nod along, feel that spark of recognition, and then scroll past to watch another video about symptoms while their body continues to deteriorate. If you actually want this information to reach the people in your life who are suffering, your parents with the joint pain, your friend with the brain fog, your partner who can't sleep, hit the share button right now. Don't wait until the end and forget. Do it now, while you still remember why this matters. Because the algorithms bury content like this. They don't want solutions that cost pennies. They want you clicking on ads for supplements that don't work. Share it and subscribe to see more videos like this one. Your gut is not a sterile tube. It's a battlefield, a fermentation vat, a living necropolis where trillions of microbes wage war over territory and resources. When things are balanced, this ecosystem hums. Nutrients get absorbed, waste gets expelled, the immune system patrols without overreacting. But when the balance tips, when antibiotics carpet bomb the population, when processed foods feed the wrong colonies, when stress hormones suppress digestive acid, the gut transforms into something darker. A slow-rotting compost heap where pathogenic bacteria and opportunistic fungi build fortresses of slime, carve out territories in the intestinal lining, and release metabolic waste products that seep into your bloodstream and fog your brain. This is biofilm, not the abstract concept from a biology textbook, but the actual mucoid plaque coating segments of your intestinal wall right now. It's a matrix of polysaccharides, proteins, and extracellular DNA that bacteria secrete to protect themselves from your immune system and from anything you swallow that might threaten their dominance. Biofilm is why your gut never fully heals. It's why the probiotic you take every morning can't colonize. It's why food sensitivities multiply. The beneficial bacteria you're trying to reintroduce can't compete with entrenched colonies that have literally built walls around themselves. Your immune cells circle these fortresses, but can't breach them. Antibiotics, even the strong ones, struggle to penetrate. The biofilm sits there, hardening over months and years, a slow-growing shield that turns sections of your gut into dead zones where nothing healthy can take root. Eugenol doesn't negotiate with biofilm. It doesn't try to work around it or wait for it to weaken. It attacks the structural integrity of the matrix itself. The compound is lipophilic, meaning it dissolves into fats and oils, allowing it to slip through the biofilm's polysaccharide barriers where water-soluble substances can't reach. Once inside, Eugenol disrupts the hydrogen bonds and van der Waals forces holding the matrix together. Think of biofilm as a fortress made of wet sand, stable until something breaks the surface tension. Eugenol is that disruptor. It destabilizes the lattice, causing the structure to fragment and peel away from the intestinal wall. The pathogens hiding underneath, Candida colonies, E. coli overgrowths, Helicobacter clusters suddenly find themselves exposed, vulnerable, and surrounded by an immune system that's been waiting for exactly this moment. This is the pathogen purge, and it's not gentle. When biofilm breaks apart, it doesn't vanish into the ether. It gets mobilized. Chunks of degraded matrix, along with the bacteria and fungi that were living inside it, flood into the intestinal lumen. Your body recognizes this surge of foreign material and responds accordingly. White blood cells that were previously stationed at the gut lining, unable to penetrate the biofilm, now rush in. Neutrophils engulf bacterial fragments. Macrophages consume fungal cells. The immune response intensifies, and this is where some people panic. They feel worse before they feel better. The die-off reaction, technically called a Herxheimer response, can manifest as headaches, fatigue, nausea, skin eruptions, or a temporary worsening of digestive symptoms. This isn't toxicity from the clove water. This is your body finally clearing waste that's been trapped for months or years, and the elimination pathways are suddenly overloaded with traffic. But here's the critical part. This discomfort is temporary, and it's productive. The alternative is leaving the biofilm intact, allowing it to continue leaching endotoxins into your bloodstream, suppressing your immune function, and maintaining the low-grade inflammation that ages you from the inside out. Clove water forces the issue. It initiates the cleanup that your body has been unable to complete on its own. And as the biofilm clears, something remarkable happens. The surface area of your intestinal lining that was previously covered in slime becomes available again. Nutrient absorption improves. The tight junctions between intestinal cells, which had been pried open by inflammatory cytokines, begin to close. The barrier function of your gut, which determines whether food particles and toxins leak into your bloodstream, starts to restore itself. The immune amplification doesn't stop at the gut wall. Your lymphatic system, the often forgotten network that drains cellular waste and transports immune cells throughout the body, gets a simultaneous upgrade. The lymphatics don't have a pump like the heart. They rely on muscle contractions, breathing, and the biochemical signals from tissues to move fluid. When inflammation is chronic, lymphatic flow slows to a crawl. The nodes get congested. Waste accumulates in the interstitial spaces between your cells, creating the puffiness, the brain fog, the sense of being waterlogged and heavy. Eugenol doesn't just reduce inflammation, it actively stimulates lymphatic drainage by modulating the production of nitric oxide, a signaling molecule that dilates vessels and improves fluid movement. Think of the lymphatic system as your body's sewer network. When it's flowing, waste gets collected from the tissues and delivered to the liver and kidneys for processing. When it stalls, the trash piles up in the streets. You feel it as stiffness, swelling, and a pervasive sense of congestion that no amount of water or movement seems to shift. Clove water acts as a biochemical plunger. It doesn't just clear the gut, it pumps the entire system, flushing metabolic debris out of tissues and into the elimination pathways where it can actually leave your body. This is why people who drink clove water consistently report that they feel lighter, less puffy, more mentally clear. They're not imagining it. The physical burden of accumulated waste is literally decreasing. But the immune benefits go deeper. Studies on eugenol show that it increases the activity and proliferation of T lymphocytes, the cells responsible for coordinating immune responses and destroying infected or cancerous cells. It enhances the phagocytic capacity of macrophages, meaning these immune cells become more efficient at engulfing and digesting pathogens. It even modulates cytokine production, reducing the pro-inflammatory signals like IL-6 and TNF-alpha that keep your body in a state of chronic alert, while boosting the regulatory signals that prevent autoimmune overreaction. This is immune intelligence, not just ramping up the defense system indiscriminately, but recalibrating it to respond appropriately, aggressively when needed, and restrained when the threat is gone. The gut immune axis is not a metaphor. 70% of your immune system is located in and around your digestive tract, because that's where the outside world, food, bacteria, toxins, has the most intimate contact with your internal biology. When the gut is compromised by biofilm and pathogenic overgrowth, your immune system is compromised. It's distracted, overwhelmed, and unable to mount effective responses to real threats. Clearing the gut is clearing the foundation. It's the first domino that allows everything else, energy, mental clarity, metabolic function, even mood, to fall back into place. Clove water is the lever that tips that domino. Simple, direct, unforgiving in its precision. Your body has been waiting for this intervention. The question is whether you're ready to let the purge begin. Inflammation is not the enemy. It's the alarm system, the repair crew, the emergency response team your body deploys when tissue is damaged or invaded. The problem is that your alarm has been ringing for years, and nobody's turned it off. Chronic low-grade inflammation is the biological equivalent of a fire that never gets extinguished, just smolders in the walls, releasing smoke that damages everything nearby. It's the reason your joints ache when you wake up. It's why you can't lose the last 20 pounds no matter how clean you eat. It's the invisible hand that keeps your cortisol elevated, your sleep shallow, and your energy locked behind a wall of exhaustion that no amount of caffeine can breach. Cortisol is supposed to be a short-term survival hormone. It spikes when you're being chased by a predator or facing an acute crisis, mobilizing glucose into your bloodstream and sharpening your focus so you can fight or flee. Then it drops. The crisis passes. Your body returns to rest and repair. But when inflammation becomes chronic, cortisol doesn't drop. It stays elevated because your body interprets the constant inflammatory signaling as a perpetual emergency. Your adrenals keep pumping out cortisol day after day, and this hormone, which is life-saving in short bursts, becomes corrosive when it never shuts off. It breaks down muscle tissue to feed your brain glucose. It suppresses your immune system. It disrupts your sleep architecture, keeping you locked in the lighter stages of sleep where your body can't complete the deep repair cycles it needs. This is the cortisol trap, and most people are living in it without realizing it. They blame stress. They blame work, kids, aging. But the root isn't psychological, it's physiological. The inflammation came first. The stress response is secondary. And until you address the inflammatory load, no meditation app or sleep supplement is going to give you the deep, restorative sleep your body is starving for. Eugenol flips the kill switch. It doesn't just reduce inflammation, it interrupts the signaling cascade that keeps cortisol elevated. By inhibiting the COX-2 enzyme and blocking the synthesis of prostaglandins, Eugenol removes the biochemical justification for the stress response. Your body stops interpreting normal existence as a crisis. Cortisol levels begin to normalize. And when cortisol drops, the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode that's been offline for months or years, finally gets permission to activate. People who start drinking clove water often report that their sleep changes within the first week. Not because eugenol is a sedative, it's not, but because the inflammatory noise that was keeping their nervous system on high alert has been turned down. The body can finally shift into deep sleep, the delta wave stages where growth hormone gets released, where damaged tissues get repaired, where the brain flushes out metabolic waste through the glymphatic system. This is not sleep as unconsciousness. This is sleep as active recovery, and it's the foundation of everything else. Energy, mental clarity, emotional resilience, metabolic health. You can't outwork bad sleep. You can't supplement your way around it. You have to remove the interference, and inflammation is the interference. But the metabolic shield that eugenol creates doesn't stop at cortisol. It extends directly into blood sugar regulation, the second pillar of metabolic dysfunction that's quietly destroying your health. Insulin resistance is the slow creep that happens when your cells stop listening to insulin's signal to absorb glucose. Your pancreas compensates by producing more insulin, which works for a while, but eventually the system breaks. Blood sugar stays elevated. Insulin stays elevated. And this combination is a metabolic nightmare. It promotes fat storage, especially around the organs. It drives inflammation, and it accelerates the aging process at a cellular level. You're not diabetic yet, but you're on the path, and every meal is pushing you further along it. Eugenol intervenes here with surgical precision. Research shows that it enhances insulin sensitivity by activating AMPK, an enzyme that acts as your cell's energy sensor. When AMPK is activated, your cells become more receptive to insulin's signal and start pulling glucose out of the bloodstream more efficiently. Blood sugar stabilizes. The post-meal crashes flatten out. The constant hunger and cravings that come from blood sugar volatility begin to subside. This isn't a temporary effect from a single dose. It's a recalibration of how your cells respond to fuel. Drink clove water consistently, and you're essentially training your metabolism to operate more efficiently, to burn what you eat instead of storing it as fat, to maintain stable energy instead of oscillating between spikes and crashes. Now shift your attention to your joints. The knees that hurt when you climb stairs, the lower back that stiffens after sitting, the hands that ache in the morning. You've been told this is wear and tear, that cartilage breaks down with age, and there's nothing you can do except manage the pain. But that's only half the truth. Yes, cartilage degrades, but the primary driver of joint pain is not mechanical breakdown, it's inflammation. The synovial fluid that lubricates your joints becomes thin and acidic when inflammatory cytokines flood the area. The cartilage that should cushion bone-on-bone contact gets eroded by enzymes released during chronic inflammation. The pain you feel is not from the joint wearing out, it's from the joint being on fire. Eugenol doesn't rebuild cartilage overnight, but it does something more immediate and more important. It intercepts the pain signals at their source. Pain is transmitted through nociceptors, specialized nerve endings that detect tissue damage and send alarm signals to your brain. Inflammatory mediators like prostaglandins sensitize these nociceptors, lowering the threshold for pain so that even normal movement feels sharp and uncomfortable. By blocking prostaglandin synthesis, Eugenol desensitizes the pain receptors. The tissue is still healing, but the alarm system stops screaming. Movement becomes tolerable again. And when movement becomes tolerable, circulation improves, bringing oxygen and nutrients to the damaged tissue, which accelerates the actual repair process. But Eugenol goes further. It delivers a payload of antioxidants directly into the inflamed tissue, neutralizing the free radicals that perpetuate the damage cycle. Free radicals are unstable molecules that steal electrons from healthy cells, creating a chain reaction of oxidative damage. In joints, this oxidative stress breaks down collagen, damages the synovial membrane, and keeps the inflammatory fire burning. Antioxidants donate electrons without becoming unstable themselves, stopping the chain reaction and allowing the tissue to shift from breakdown to repair. This is the lubrication your joints have been missing, not oil, but biochemical stability that allows the cells to function without being constantly under assault. The transformation is not instant. You won't drink clove water once and wake up pain-free. But consistency compounds. Each day, the inflammatory load decreases a little. Each night, the cortisol baseline drops a little. Each week, the insulin sensitivity improves a little. And over time, these incremental shifts accumulate into something undeniable. You sleep deeper. You move easier. Your energy stabilizes. The metabolic shield isn't a single dramatic intervention. It's a steady fortification of the systems that were quietly failing. It's the difference between managing symptoms and addressing causes, between surviving on willpower and operating from a foundation of restored biology. Your body is not broken. It's been under siege. And Eugenol is the relief force that changes the momentum of the battle. The question is whether you'll deploy it before the damage becomes irreversible. You can do everything right and still fail if you're starting with dead material. This is the part nobody tells you, the invisible sabotage that happens long before the spice jar reaches your hand. The cloves sitting in your cabinet right now might look whole, smell faintly aromatic, and carry a label that promises purity, but there's a strong chance they've been stripped of the very compounds that make them biochemically active. This isn't negligence, it's industrial protocol, and it's killing the potency of nearly every spice you buy. The industry standard for imported spices is irradiation. Not a gentle steam cleaning or sun drying, but high-energy gamma radiation or electron beams designed to obliterate bacteria, fungi, and insect eggs that might be lurking in bulk shipments. On paper, this sounds reasonable. Nobody wants contaminated spices. But radiation doesn't discriminate. It doesn't just kill pathogens, it degrades volatile oils, the aromatic compounds that contain the therapeutic molecules you're after. Eugenol is a volatile oil. It's temperature-sensitive, light-sensitive, and highly susceptible to oxidative breakdown when exposed to radiation. When cloves are irradiated, the eugenol content can drop by 30 to 50% or more, leaving you with a spice that smells like clove but lacks the molecular firepower to do anything meaningful in your body. And you'd never know. There's no warning label. No asterisk that says, Irradiated for your safety, depleted of bioactive compounds. The jar says cloves, and you trust that cloves means the real thing. But what you're getting is the botanical equivalent of a photocopy. It looks similar from a distance, but the resolution is degraded, the details blurred, the essence missing. This is the industry trap. The spice trade prioritizes shelf stability and regulatory compliance over biochemical integrity. They're selling you a product that won't make you sick, but also won't make you well. It's safe, sterile, and utterly inert. So where do you find cloves that still have their oils intact? You look for organic sources that explicitly state they are non-irradiated. You buy whole cloves, not ground, because grinding exposes more surface area to oxygen and accelerates the degradation of volatile compounds. You source from suppliers who prioritize freshness, who turn over inventory quickly, who understand that spices are not shelf-stable commodities, but perishable concentrations of living chemistry. And you test them. Crack a clove between your fingers. If the smell is sharp, pungent, almost aggressive, the oils are there. If it's faint, dusty, or has a flat sweetness without bite, the eugenol has evaporated or degraded. Your nose is a better quality control instrument than any label. But even if you source the right cloves, you can still destroy their potency in your kitchen. This is where the golden rule comes into play. Temperature and extraction time are not variables you can improvise. They are precise levers that determine whether you're extracting therapeutic compounds or just making scented water. Eugenol has a boiling point of around 254 degrees Celsius, which means it won't vaporize into steam during a typical hot water infusion. But heat still matters, because excessive temperatures can trigger oxidation and polymerization reactions that degrade the compound before it ever enters your cup. The optimal method is a controlled steep, not a rolling boil. Take 4 to 6 whole cloves and crush them lightly to fracture the outer shell and expose the oil glands inside. Place them in a cup and pour water that's been heated to around 80 to 85 degrees Celsius. Hot enough to extract the oils, but not so hot that it breaks them down. Let the cloves steep for 8 to 10 minutes. This is the extraction window where eugenol diffuses out of the plant material and into the water without significant degradation. If you boil the cloves directly in water on the stove, you risk driving off some of the lighter volatile fractions and concentrating the heavier, less bioactive tannins that can cause stomach irritation. If you steep for too short a time, you're under-extracting, leaving most of the eugenol locked inside the clove. Some people add the cloves to cold water and let them sit overnight, claiming this preserves the oils. There's some logic here. No heat means no thermal degradation, but the trade-off is lower solubility. Eugenol is only partially soluble in water, and cold temperatures reduce its diffusion rate significantly. You'll extract some compounds, but not efficiently. The warm steep is the sweet spot, balancing extraction efficiency with molecular preservation. And once you've steeped the water, drink it fresh. Don't let it sit for hours. Eugenol is reactive, and once it's in solution, it starts interacting with oxygen and light. The potency degrades over time. This isn't a batch prep situation. You make it, you drink it, you move on. Timing also matters in terms of when you drink it. The most strategic moment is first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Your gut is relatively clear, your stomach acid is concentrated, and the eugenol can make direct contact with the intestinal lining without being diluted or delayed by food. This is when the biofilm breaking action is most effective, when the antimicrobial compounds can penetrate deepest. Some people drink a second serving in the evening, a few hours after dinner, to support overnight detoxification and parasympathetic activation. But start with one serving. Let your body adapt. If you go too hard too fast, especially if your toxic load is high, the die-off reaction can be overwhelming. This is the shift that most people never make. They treat symptoms. They take ibuprofen for joint pain, antacids for reflux, sleep aids for insomnia. They're putting out spot fires while the foundational blaze burns unchecked. Clove water is not a symptomatic band-aid. It's a tactical strike against the root causes, the biofilm, the inflammation, the metabolic dysfunction that generate the symptoms in the first place. You're not managing the smoke, you're extinguishing the fire. And once the fire is out, the smoke clears on its own. But you have to commit to the purity protocol. You can't half-ass this with stale, irradiated cloves and expect results. You can't boil them into oblivion and wonder why nothing changes. The biochemistry is precise, and precision requires respect for the process. Source quality material, extract it properly, drink it consistently, and then pay attention. Not to what the influencers or the supplement companies tell you, but to what your own body reports. The change in your energy, the shift in your digestion, the quieting of the pain that you thought was permanent. Your body is not a mystery. It operates according to predictable biological principles, and when you give it the right molecular tools, it does what it was designed to do: repair, regenerate, restore. Clove water is one of those tools. Simple, ancient, relentlessly effective when used correctly. The industry doesn't want you to know this because there's no profit in a solution that costs pennies and comes from a spice you already own. But now you know. The fire has a kill switch. The question is whether you'll finally flip it. You just got the entire protocol: the sourcing, the extraction, the timing, everything you need to actually fix the problem instead of medicating the symptoms. Now, I want you to do something for me. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and comment below with one word: started. And share it with one person who's stuck in the same metabolic prison you just found the key to. Because the only thing worse than suffering is having the solution and keeping it to yourself.